Pleasure versus happiness. Happiness has nothing to do with pleasure. Happiness is about meaning, alignment, and inner steadiness. Pleasure is about sensation, stimulation, and momentary highs. They overlap sometimes, but they're not the same currency. You feel pleasure when you want something and you get it. Or when you don't want something and you remove it. Pleasure is always relative. Pleasure is conditional because it depends on something happening your way. It needs a trigger. You get the outcome you wanted, avoid something uncomfortable, or experience something stimulating. When the condition is there, pleasure appears. When it's gone, so is the feeling. That makes it inherently unstable, because conditions are always changing. Even the best moments fade, and the mind quickly adjusts, looking for the next thing to hold on to. Happiness is resilient because it isn't built on those shifting conditions. It comes from a deeper place, how you relate to whatever is happening. It's the capacity to stay grounded when things don't go as planned, to experience disappointment without being defined by it, to enjoy good moments without fearing their end. Resilience here doesn't mean you're always calm or always positive. It means you're not easily broken by change. You bend without snapping. You feel everything, joy, stress, loss, but there's a part of you that remains steady through it. So the contrast isn't about rejecting pleasure. It's about not relying on it as your foundation. The distinction you're making between pleasure and happiness is well recognized. In psychology, pleasure is often tied to what's called hedonic well-being, temporary, stimulus-driven, dependent on getting or avoiding something. Happiness, in a deeper sense, aligns more with eudaimonic well-being, meaning, acceptance, purpose, and inner alignment. Where I gently push back is the idea that happiness is purely absolute or that everything must be accepted as perfect. Happiness is the understanding and acceptance of life as it is in this very moment as completely perfect. Acceptance is powerful. Yes, but taken too far, it can turn into passivity. Acceptance, at its best, is clarity, not surrender. It means seeing reality without distortion. This is what's happening right now. But passivity is something else entirely. It's when you stop engaging, stop choosing, stop shaping what can be changed. Loss, injustice, and pain don't feel perfect, and calling them that too quickly can dismiss real human experience. Grief hurts. Injustice demands response. Pain signals that something matters. Ignoring that in the name of acceptance can actually deepen harm. Not everything in life feels right or fair. Loss, pain, and injustice are real, and they matter. But suffering deepens when we fight the reality of what already is. Acceptance doesn't mean approval, it means clarity. And from that clarity, we find the strength to heal, to act, and to change what we can. Pleasure is tied to outcomes. You get what you want, or you avoid what you don't. It rises and falls with circumstances, which means it's naturally unstable. There's nothing wrong with it, but it can't carry the weight of lasting fulfillment. When pleasure is tied to outcomes, it puts your inner state on a kind of roller coaster. You feel good when things go your way, and you dip when they don't. That rise and fall isn't random. It's built into the structure of wanting. The moment a desire appears, your sense of well-being gets linked to whether reality matches it. And even when you do get what you want, the stability doesn't last. The mind quickly adapts. What once felt exciting becomes normal, then insufficient. A new desire forms, and the cycle starts again. So it's not just that pleasure is temporary. It actually keeps you moving, always leaning toward the next outcome, the next fix, the next relief. On the other side of that is a different way of relating to experience. Instead of tying your well-being to outcomes, you begin to loosen that dependency. You can still enjoy pleasure when it comes, there's nothing wrong with that, but you're not relying on it to feel okay. And when things don't go your way, you're not completely thrown off balance either. That's where a deeper kind of stability begins. Not because life stops changing, but because your sense of ground isn't constantly shifting with it. What's deeper is the capacity to remain steady even as those conditions change. Not constant joy, but a kind of groundedness, where your inner state isn't entirely at the mercy of external wins and losses. Pleasure is immediate and sensory. It comes from experiences that satisfy a desire, food, comfort, success, relief. It's real but short-lived, and it depends on conditions lining up in your favor. Happiness, in a deeper sense, isn't about those momentary highs. It's more about your overall relationship with life, how you interpret it, how you respond to it, and whether you're constantly at war with it or at ease within it. You can have moments of pleasure and still feel empty. And you can go through difficulty with very little pleasure, yet still feel a kind of inner steadiness or meaning. Where your idea becomes powerful is here. Happiness doesn't depend on pleasure. If your sense of well-being is built on pleasure alone, it becomes fragile, because pleasure comes and goes. But if it's built on something deeper, acceptance, clarity, purpose, then it can remain even when pleasure is absent. If happiness depended on pleasure, then your well-being would always be at the mercy of circumstances. Good days, bad days, wins, losses, comfort, discomfort. Every shift in life would directly control how you feel inside. There would be no stability, only a constant negotiation with reality. I'll be okay, as long as things go my way. But happiness, in a deeper sense, works differently. It's not built on how often you feel good. It's built on how you relate to whatever you're feeling. You can experience pleasure and enjoy it without clinging to it. You can experience pain without collapsing into it. That doesn't mean you like pain or reject pleasure. It means your inner state isn't completely dictated by either. Think of it this way. Pleasure says, this feels good. I want it to stay. Pain says, this feels bad. I need it to go. Happiness says, this is what's here right now, and I can meet it without losing myself. That's where independence begins. Not from life, but from constant emotional dependency on how life unfolds. It also means happiness can coexist with imperfect moments. You can be going through stress, grief, or uncertainty, and still have a layer of steadiness underneath it. Not because everything feels good, but because you're no longer fighting every experience that doesn't. At the end of the comparison between pleasure and happiness, what you're really circling is the question of what you build your life on. Pleasure is immediate and attractive. It pulls your attention outward, toward experiences, outcomes, sensations. There's nothing wrong with it. It makes life enjoyable, and it gives color to ordinary moments. But it has a built-in limitation. It depends on conditions you don't fully control. Because of that, it can't hold your life together when those conditions shift. If you rely on pleasure as your foundation, life becomes reactive. You're always adjusting your mood based on what just happened. A good day lifts you up, a bad day pulls you down. Over time, that creates instability, not just in how you feel, but in how you see yourself and the world. Happiness, in a deeper sense, is different. It's not the absence of discomfort or the constant presence of good feelings. It's a steadiness that allows both pleasure and pain to pass through without completely defining you. It's what remains when life is not arranged in your favor. That's why pleasure is something you experience, but happiness is something you cultivate. One is event-based, the other is perspective-based. One depends on change, the other endures through change. So when you bring the two together, the conclusion isn't that pleasure is bad. It's that it's incomplete on its own. It's a visitor, not a home. Remember, pleasure is what life gives you in moments. Happiness is what you become when you're no longer dependent on those moments to feel whole.